Hey everyone, welcome. Another episode of Mondays with Matt on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, because we wanted to give you a day off to relax with your families. Matt, today I want to talk to you about a word that I've heard you use a couple, three times, and I was like, okay, this is something everyone needs to hear about. And it was in the context of these stories that are coming out, the next one and the next one. The next one is in the marketplace of schools that are just blowing it on these big implementations, all money wasted, a lot of expectations lost, adoption not happening, failed project after failed project in the technology space. And in the past, we've just chalked it up to there was a mess up, there was bad planning, there was this, there was poor system integrator, whatever it may be. But then you started to coin a term a couple times now that I want you to share with the audience, and let's unpack it together because it's much more serious than that when you apply this lens to it. So what's that word you've been using?
I've been using the word malpractice, and I know people aren't going to like it when I say it, but after we go through what we've seen the past 5 to 10 years, right? And seeing the amount of money that is actually expended, the things that happen to a campus after an implementation, the only word that I could really coin to describe it is there's a little bit of malpractice going on. Lawyers have professional responsibility standards, and they have to be able to be accountable for the professional responsibility that they have gone through school. The bar requires of it. That was something when I was at the law school. I remember seeing that course, and I was like, oh, they're making sure the attorneys and lawyers are accountable for their actions, their decisions. Those are important. Of course, and we have ethics for doctors, in what they need to do. And so that's why the word malpractice comes to mind, because I look at this and say, who made that decision? And who's accountable for what just occurred to that campus?
Yeah, I know. When you think about it, it's at the end of the day, a lot of people just see it as, a project that didn't work out, or that overspent or over budget, and a lot of people quit and all this kind of stuff. But the impact, the ripples of that are significant. Culture issues, trust issues, people leaving, the industry frustrated, and then the resources, right? That the board approved and the president went to bat for it. And now millions and millions of dollars in many cases are being taken out of what could have gone to students, what could have gone to give people raises, what could have gone to improve a lot of experiences on campus for one mega project. And it'd be different if it only happened to one campus here, one campus there. They'd be the oddball. The issue is it's almost systemic at this point. And that at that point, there is this call for like, hey, is that just malpractice? Do people just not care? What are some reasons, Matt, where this could be happening, where things are coming off the rails so easily, it seems like, with so many schools?
Yeah. I think the words that I would that come to mind, they're overconfident. They're, like in Gabrielle's article, that the immunity effect, definitely look it up on our website. In that, she talks about people, leaders, captains, just having overconfidence and then putting their crew
at risk.
That's the first. There's a little bit of, oh, I got this, we got this, we'll be okay. Even though they see all of the other, boat wrecks on the side, they're like, we're going to get through this, right? So there's a little bit of overconfidence. That's the first one. Then there's this, I want the names and lights. I want to be the person that sits on the stage, that I become, the lighthouse. Oh, I'm going to be at conferences, and I'm going to be the one that's the most innovative. So there's this personal accolades that they want. So that's the second one. And then they're just enamored. They're enamored. The vendors throw it at them and they eat it up. Like, oh my God, you guys are the best. You should do this.
You're so ready. You're so prepared.
And they're licking the boots of the vendors of like, oh my God, yes, please include me. I want to be the. And who's accountable for the misuse of funds? The reason that I use the word malpractice, the reason I use it is somebody has to be held accountable for the decision. You said all the things that we're missing. When you do use or you misuse funds, you're also taking it away from the actual transformation that should happen.
Right.
The opportunity to actually transform a campus, to be modernized, to become future ready. You have just taken that funds and said, you know what? Hey, because of my 3 reasons, I'm overconfident, I want to be on stage, and I'm licking the boots of my vendor, I'm going to put my campus through this. And the reason I use the word malpractice is that I think someone needs to be held accountable. That person who made that decision shouldn't leave that campus and go get another CIO job because they just left their campus high and dry, and now they're sitting at another campus about to do the same thing.
So Matt, but in higher ed, isn't most of these decisions, at least the selection or bringing on or let's do it kind of decisions, made by some committee? Is it true then that just like an individual can get caught up in some of the things you talked about, a committee could as well? If there aren't objective people like, hey, we're XYZ in a university, we've got a name brand, we're well known, nothing can go wrong, we got lots of money. And that can create a delusion, like you said in Gabrielle's article, the idea of a immunity effect. Like that storm won't affect us. Yes, it affects all the little boats, but we're a big boat and we're unbeatable.
Malpractice isn't to one person. Malpractice is for everyone that made that decision to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It isn't just one person that does it. There's malpractice by the vendor. There's malpractice by the RFP vendor selection firm that you decided to go with. There's a little bit of malpractice. There's a little malpractice by the trends report analyst telling you, oh, let me show you.
This software is ready, or this is great. Yeah.
No, it's not ready. And even if it's not ready, I'm not telling you not to take on that software, because that's how software works. There's always going to be iterations. There are always new things. But you better prepare yourself. You better prepare yourself for the journey that you're going to go into so that you're not stranded, that you didn't decide to spend millions. And maybe you allocate it better, and you could take on a software that isn't mature, because the cloud products are not mature. Hello, I'm giving you guys that advice. It's not totally mature yet, and that's okay that you're on it. But you better realize, don't go spending all of your money and then get paused. Project, has to be rethought through. The capabilities is not there. Oh, we got to buy a third-party product. I can tell you all of the reasons why it becomes a $1 million mistake. And if you're spending taxpayers $1 million, if you're spending your students $1 million, if you're spending your campus $1 million, and you don't hold yourself accountable, committee, single individual, it doesn't matter who it is, you should be considered having malpractice. That's the only thing I can think about when I hear it. I'm so passionately against that.
Well, and I think one of the reasons you're passionately against it is because the solution is fairly simple, right?
Yeah.
It's don't be arrogant, don't be prideful, don't make decisions in a vacuum, get objective insight. And one of the things we recommend to schools when they're thinking about a big purchase is, hey, don't go talk to the 3 schools that the vendor is going to give you to talk to. Go find 3 schools that the vendor doesn't want you to know about. Go find the schools where it didn't go so well. That's where the lessons learned are. That's where you can better prepare yourself. And chances are those schools are going to say, we didn't plan enough. We didn't put enough resources behind it. We overestimated our capability. We underestimated the work it was going to take. That's the insight you need. So then, like you said, you can plan better. And then the malpractice goes away, right? Because then you've done the diligence. And then even if things go wrong, hey, that's understandable. But at least you didn't go in with rose-colored glasses. Oh, everything's going to go great. Try and convince your staff that everything's going to go great. And then you have all the change management and culture issues that fall behind it.
Look, at Beyond, we can't make it more blunt. We're writing about it. We're talking about it. We're telling you exactly what the failures are, what the reasons that failures are. We're even giving you the factors. When we were questioned, what factor are you using for 75% of failure rate? And I laid out 9 off my top of my head. Like, hey, if you're 25% over your original SOW, hello, that's a failure. Hey, you're in production support for a year afterwards. Like, if I were to give you those factors and I tell you ahead of time, hey, one of these factors are going to happen, it's going to cost you $1 million, would you consider it a failure? Most people will say, hell yeah, it's a failure.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
People who are making money around this want to put it under the rug and not say it's a failure, because I use the word they want to spin the success around the failure. Let me write a use case, let me write a case study, and then if you
let me get you speaking at our next conference.
Exactly. But let me give you, and so you'll see some analysts writing a case study on different projects. And maybe there is success there. Maybe it is. But open the hood.
Tell us about the failures as well, right? Be open and honest so others can truly learn. And everyone doesn't think this is just a perfect journey. So let's all just jump on board without planning.
Look, the numbers that we're looking at, it's 75%. Anything we're looking at $1 million projects. I'm not looking at your, micro under $1 million project. But those should be able to do it, but be creative. But even in those, there's some failures.
Sure.
They think that's going to be the golden, this is going to make their enrollment go higher. They're going to identify every student who has risk. No, there's strategy that needs to be required there. You made the comment, it's simple. These are things that we could do. It's simple for people who actually recognize the reason they're doing it, right? Due diligence is simple for people to understand, what are they trying to do? So you need to first understand the outcomes. What is the true outcome of it? Is it the lift and shift? Because if it's a lift and shift, then design it as a lift and shift, spend the money on it, and get it there. And you know what? Realize you're going to be in pain for another 5 years because you're going to be in production. That's okay. And I wouldn't call it a failure because you have held yourself.
You set the right expectation.
Standard. And I think that's the first thing. You better know your outcomes. Then do the due diligence, because I can't tell you. Tons of people talk to me when I'm at conferences and in my Zooms and see this giddiness. When I hear the giddiness, oh my God, we just selected a vendor and we are about to go do this. But
you can tell that the diligence isn't being done. The rose-colored glasses are. You could see in their face, or you could hear in their voice and you're like, I know how this movie ends.
I know how the movie ends, and it's hard because some of them are my friends. I've seen them in industry for the past 10, 15 years. I want to be able to shake them and says, the Kool-Aid is making you drunk because there's going to be malpractice happening at your campus, and you're not willing to stop and pause and be like, why am I giddy? And is it really, truly going to bring me transformation? I'm going to go spend 20 million. I'm going to spend 10 million. I'm going to spend 5 million. But the issue is whether it's 5 million, 20 million, and if you don't decide to take the best interest of your campus, there should be malpractice considered. Because that person shouldn't get a job as a CIO somewhere else. That person shouldn't become the AVP of somewhere else because they decided to do that to a campus and leave it. That's the struggle that I want to make sure we address here.
So the challenge to everyone listening and watching is you're going to have to make these big decisions, right? That's why you have the title. That's why you have the responsibility. That's why you were invited to that working group or that selection committee. Do the diligence. Don't follow the pathway that's just laid out traditionally, because 75% of the chance you're going to be failing. So do it differently. Think outside the box. Get the right advice. Do the diligence, and then you're fine.
In some cases, that person who's leading it is going to retire into the sunset. No project should be led by someone who will not live that project.
On the other side.
On the other side.
So much more to say about this, Matt. Maybe we'll do another episode on this. Let's see what people have to say so far on what we've talked about, how many feathers you ruffled and what comments there are. Maybe this will initiate a follow-up. Maybe we even invite somebody on to join us for the follow-up conversation. Mondays with Matt. Thanks for being on. See you all next time.